Hello, this is Renee with What's Your Passion podcast. And this is a good friend of mine, Lanay, Stockstill. And we are going to be talking to you today about house flipping, some real estate concepts, some things we've been working on. Me and Lanay have been friends for several years, and we've been on these podcasts, I think, a few times. And we always have really great conversations on really just the combination of real estate, the real estate market, different changes that are going on in the industry. And I think today we're going to be just kind of focusing on some different areas of really house flipping. And really, I think we're going to talk about real estate agents and some of the changes that are happening in their industry. Is that correct, Lanay?
Yes.
So great to have you on again, and look
Thank you.
forward to it. So what you want to start with? I mean, today's podcast is really just kind of open to what
Okay.
we feel is
Well, you know what I'm finding in the marketplace right now here in New Orleans, things are a little stale, especially through the summer. So a lot of people, um, a lot of houses are sitting on the markets, perfectly good houses, but
Mhm.
just not a lot of turnover. So a lot of agents, I think, are probably wondering how they can diversify a little bit. And so some of them move into wholesaling or flipping projects and team up with other people. So I thought one of the things that I could address today would be that if you were going to look at flipping properties, whether it's in New Orleans or another market nearby, how you would identify what is a good property.
Okay.
Um,
Get my notebook here.
and a lot of that is finding out, identifying whether the price that you have it at is a good price. So, I have 7 steps, and I'm not, brilliant by any means. I've learned this from other people, so, this is how I do it. This is how I was taught how to do it, and so I figure I would just go through. I know a guy who does flips. They do them in the Virginia market, Northern Virginia market predominantly,
Right.
and they're making about, on average, 80 grand per flip. Now,
Really.
how is he able to do that? Well, a lot of trial and error for one, I'm sure, when they first get their processes and systems laid out. But mainly, the most important thing to start at is getting a property at a price that will allow you to do that and being very conservative on your numbers and not straying from that. Um, so, in his steps, say you find a property, you're
Mhm.
going to, it looks like it's a deal.
Right.
The first step is you're going to find 3 sold comparables in a similar style. So if it's a two-story, you want to find other two stories. If
Right.
it's a multi-level, you want to try and compare it with another multi-level
Okay.
because these different styles may hit the market in a different way and how people approach them.
Right.
Um, so that's number one. Step number two is the comparables must be within 2 to 500 square feet. And in New Orleans, we don't have to worry about this, but what you want to pay attention to is your above grade square footage, meaning basements, you're not going to factor that into your calculations.
Correct.
Um, in New Orleans, there are no basements. We can't do it because water would just fill them up anyway. So there is no,
Right.
I mean, it's all above grade unless you have some weird outlier. Step three, when we want sold comps to be within 90 days, if possible. So when you're looking for these sold comps, if they're not in the 90 days, you can open it up to another 30 days out and then maybe another 30 days until you get enough comps. Now, if you go beyond, if you're really having to go 2 years, that's going to be a high risk property,
Oh
right?
yeah.
Because you're not getting enough turnover in your area. And your area, in step number four, these comps should be within a half mile of the property you've identified to analyze. Okay. And then
Hmm.
step five, you want, of those comps, you want one comp in each level. So you want one to be Pinterest level comp, right? Move in ready, beautiful, everything's finished. That'll be your first comp. Your second comp might be something that's kind of like needs a little bit of touch up, a little polishing, paint, maybe replace some carpets, things like that. Nothing systems wise. Okay. And then your third comp would be as is and needs a full reno. Okay. And then once you have identified those 3 comps, you're gonna break down step 6 is you're gonna break down each comp into price per square foot. So you're gonna take that sale price and you're gonna divide it by the square footage, the above grade square footage, and
Right.
that's gonna give you your price per square foot. All right, and then you're gonna take those 3 comps and you're gonna average them together, and that's gonna give you your target price per square foot, okay? Then you're gonna pull your after that, you're gonna say, "Okay, I've got my price per square foot of what it should sell at once it's fixed up. This is where I wanna target." Now I'm gonna look at the actives under contracts. Are those in line with my price per square foot? Okay? And if they're lower, then that's a high you might have to look at your numbers again. So if
Okay.
your actives out there in the market are a lower price per square foot for a house that needs to flip, then that's a higher risk house, and you either need to move on and analyze another property, or you need to get that price way down. So that's the basics of how to look at a property and analyze it.
What was the number 6?
Number 6 was, determine your price per square foot and then take the average between the 3 comps.
Okay.
And that's how you can stay conservative because 'cause you're not just looking at all the crème de la crème. You're taking the average of those 3 types of properties.
So it's I know New Orleans, everybody's everywhere is different. Like in New Orleans, I'm working with a client right now that she has a double and she's trying to decide on whether how much to put into it to um, potentially sell it
Mhm.
or at least get the value up. And I was showing the different comps. It's like you have so many different things you have to look at because of this street can be different from 2 streets over. It's
Right.
crazy, you know what I'm saying?
It
And it's
really is. You have to drive the neighborhoods really or
yeah.
get somebody else to.
And then her particular double, when I looked at some of the pricing, like some of the doubles that are out there that have sold or it's they were bigger. Like hers is each side is like only 12 feet wide, whereas
Right.
some of these other ones it's a little bit more open, right?
Like
So
15
it's
or
so many
more.
factors that, like you're saying, it's like you have to really have a detailed understanding of looking at all this and breaking it down.
Right,
Uh,
and that's where we get to, like, pulling comps that are in like, most similar to what you're evaluating. So if hers is a walk-through shotgun double,
right,
that's not gonna sell for as much as something with independent bedrooms,
correct.
so
And
you're
then,
gonna have to lower
and
your
then
price.
she's dealing with the fact that she wants to move the kitchen from the back to the front. So when you walk into the front, you have the little den, it's all open into the kitchen, and then trying to create a little small hallway that's going to keep 2 bedrooms, and then the back has the bathroom. So it's
Right,
like the pricing because the here in New Orleans, the shotguns, you either have a house that's lifted up high or you have it. This one's very low. So for
right.
just for plumbing, it's going to be
It's being
it's
costly.
huge cost to
Right.
try to move and create even another half bath and move the kitchen from underneath the house because there's no you can't squeeze under there as well
Right,
as it's higher. So
right.
it's like all these different things that you have to look at when you're trying to figure out, oh, I'd love to do it, but then how much is the plumbing is going to cost? It seems like it's easy. But then when you look at the square footage, how much room you have to make a hallway, how do you separate the rooms? So it's a
Well,
challenge.
I think what I would do in that case is determine what that like, what go through these steps and determine what can I actually sell this for once I do upgrades,
Correct.
right? How much and then at that point, okay, so how much of what I'm gonna make off of this can go into the budget
Right.
to, so I actually make something out of all my efforts,
Correct.
right? So, okay, this is what I can sell it for, worst case scenario, and then that leaves me I don't know, 15 grand to upgrade. And so that might determine right there whether she can move a kitchen or not, because you're not going to move kitchens for 15 grand.
No. And she only really wants to play. She only has like maybe 60 to 70,000 to play with. And you're trying to do this on both sides.
Right.
And
At
our,
that point, you might just price it for, or partner with somebody, get an ARV for a single family and what it would sell for, and partner with somebody who has the funds that can help with that assist, and then y'all split the proceeds at the end of the day.
correct.
But then it's in New Orleans.
Yeah, it's in New Orleans and right
Yeah.
there in Algiers over here in the West Bank area.
And then I would go ahead and add extra time to what you expect that to be because of the permitting, because that takes forever.
I just wrote that down because it's the permits. I think the
Your
permits.
carrying costs are going to be more.
It's. I think it's not even. It's. I think you said it the other day. That you said it, or my sister-in-law said it. That it's just move-in ready, but the permits is what's holding everything up. Is that
Yeah,
what's
I have a house that's closing tomorrow, but was delayed for months because they didn't have an occupancy license, which
right?
they didn't have an occupancy because they hadn't cleared out their electrical or done these other steps yet, and they were waiting on electrical to clear, and that took months to get from the city.
It's really is it's so many different steps that everyone needs to kind of walk through and have a good contractor that understands all of these. Also, at the same time, when you're doing certain things, you got to have a plan and just start looking at everything ahead of time before you run into the issue.
Right. Right, exactly. So, and you're talking, I mean, most renovations, I mean, a full renovation can take up to 9 months.
Correct.
You
Well, that's right. That's the other part. I'm having these conversations with my contractors that we're working on some concepts, and it's like, do you renovate or do you build? And
Right.
it's like, the renovation projects that, both you and I have done several through the years. And I used to think of them as easier, but it just seems like it's getting to the point to where it's really kind of easier to just build brand new. Um, and then I was talking to other groups, they're talking about all these, these larger projects. And it's kind of like the larger projects I've been working on. I'm working on a truck parking concept and also EV charging retail centers.
Mhm.
And just the process, it's taken us almost 2.5 years, the price it's going to cost, and then so many decision makers to get to a decision. And
Right.
you can go bankrupt if you really buy a property, you don't do your due diligence up front. But with these smaller properties, I think it's a little bit easier that you can just find a good, affordable, cheap land, get it, hopefully it's already kind of prepped. You might have to still add on some fill, especially here in New Orleans, to get it to the grade to where the insurance and everything else is cheaper. But is it cheaper and is it quicker to build or renovate?
Right.
And that's the thing that I'm
Well, there are fewer surprises with a build
correct.
versus a full renovation where you're gonna, especially in these older houses, you're gonna find a lot of surprises.
Right. And then when you open up the can of worms that the permit people come out, they might see something that's not, that needs to be upgraded, whether it's the plumbing or the electrical or other things, or they
Yeah,
might
and
see.
also depending on how much you're renovating, if it's a they have different requirements. So if you're renovating more than, I don't, is it 50 or 60% of the building, then you might have to elevate the building,
Correct.
right? So if you're
Mhm.
doing that, and you're below grade or you're below sea level, and they're going to say, "Oh, wait, no, you've got to renovate that. You've got to lift this building now." So there you go. Surprise, surprise. That's a cost you didn't account for.
Mhm.
So I
Hmm.
only look for X zones anyway.
Yeah, sometimes it really is a process, and I think that's where I enjoy doing these podcasts because it's, and also being, I think you're part of a group that I think both of us, my sister-in-law actually, she's in the Grand Cardone event today. I don't know if you had a chance to talk.
We did. We spoke.
So I know she's excited about that because she's trying to look at, okay, we've had these doubles. Now she's looking at, okay, we need to go bigger, right? So to get more of an income versus taking care of just small little properties. So I think she's in this. So I think all of us are kind of figuring out this little renovation real estate process. Which way do people want to go? And it all really depends on where you are and the property values and really what's selling. And I think she was saying they're sitting on a lot of listings right now in a relatively good price range. What, 200,000-300,000 that she's sitting on?
That's what she said. Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah, it is crazy because that's the more affordable option, and she's still having trouble with those out in Covington.
Right.
Yeah.
So what are you seeing on that? It's insurance, it's
Insurance.
interest rates.
Well, you have that, but now you have the added pressure. Now we have it to where there was a huge lawsuit. I don't know if everyone's aware of this,
Yeah.
but there was a huge lawsuit where it used to be that sellers paid the buyer's agent's commission.
Correct.
So that's something that buyers didn't have to account for. And that's all fine and good if you have deep pockets, right? But if
Right.
you have sellers now, they are not allowed to negotiate that cost up front. So now you have agents who don't know if they're going to get paid and they need to negotiate that in a contract. I have a client who now they are looking for houses. They need closing costs paid for. Well, their closing costs just went from 5% to higher. They needed 5%. You're not allowed to do more than 6% in some cases to have closing costs covered by the seller.
Mm-hmm.
So here they are asking for 5%. Well, now their closing costs have just gone up 2.5%.
Right.
Because how do I get paid?
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going open doors for them and advising them on houses, but there's nothing left that the seller can pay for because they need 5% to cover their closing costs. See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So the people that don't have deep pockets aren't going to be able to buy houses, or they're not going to find agents who can show them houses, so to speak, because nobody wants to work for free.
Well, it's like where I mean, buyers don't have deep pockets. Majority, they're first-time home buyers,
Exactly.
and they're renting right now down here in our areas are 1,500 to 1,800 a month. They're basically getting by. They're trying to pay attention to their credit. They're trying not to put extra cost on their credit cards. The lender's telling them that you need to get your debt down to this for you to be able to qualify for this. I mean, it's like a big, huge wheel that
Right.
the buyers don't have majority of the time. They don't have this extra big lump sum of money for the down payment, like you're saying, the closing cost, the appraisal, basic inspection costs, like all the different things that a
Yeah,
buyer.
the mortgage cost and everything.
And it's like for the sellers, I mean, the sellers agents have got to become better at helping the sellers who are selling their homes understand you're either going to sit on this property for a lifetime if you do not offer some of these things for the buyers to buy your beautiful home.
Right, if you're not even going to consider it, but you can't even put that in the remarks that the seller will pay, from what I understand. Now, I could be wrong about that, but that's what I've been told. So,
That's crazy.
yeah, I mean, if you've already maxed out on what you have to ask for closing costs, then you don't have an option to have an agent because
Right.
you don't have a way to pay them. Can't even get the seller to pay for them, or maybe they make 1%.
Right.
So I've got people want me to drive out to Slidell and show them property, which isn't that far. It's a half hour, but
Right.
time is valuable, and open up doors. And I can tell you, I've already spent a good majority of anything I get paid
Right.
showing them property now at this point, just on time and gas. And I really like these people, but at this point, I don't think I'll get paid so this is a problem that I don't know how you solve that when you have people who need that much in closing costs. So I think that might kind of hijack some of these first-time home buyers.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the seller could give them more, they can't give them more than the 6%. And if they're doing FHA, it's not more than 2 or 3%.
And that's based on just residential. It's not really on commercial, right? That's
No,
just
that's not commercial. I don't know.
so it's just based on residential.
Residential.
I always find commercial so much easier.
Yes, commercial is by the numbers
It's
and
it's
easier to negotiate. I mean, it's harder to negotiate in some circumstances because there's so many other things to consider, especially the bigger the property, right?
mm-hmm.
So, and the good thing is when they're doing commercial, they don't need to live in the house, so it's not as emotional either.
Correct. Yeah, the
So,
emotional. You have to take the emotions out of everything right now. So it's really comes down to the logic behind it.
mhm.
So I'm looking forward. I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to pan out. I have to go to some more meetings and more events with this, but I'm looking forward to seeing how this is going to pan out over the next few months.
Yeah, I'm curious, but that's why I think a lot of people in this tight market are looking for some other a way to diversify how they make their money. Because as an agent, it's very uncertain currently.
Oh, heck. I mean, I think that's been a big factor. I mean, when I started in 2000, I was 30, 31 years old. And that's when I became a team leader with Keller Williams. And I started interviewing real estate agents who've been in the business for 10, 20 years. And between me and Joe, my partner at the time, we really were investors, and we just had the opportunity to start the agency. And as I was interviewing agents, it surprised me that how many did not have another source of income, or they never owned their own real estate or real estate investment properties. And now a lot of real estate agents I find are being stuck because they have not put their energy in anything else besides the real estate industry. So I know people tell me, so Renee, why don't you focus on one thing? But I did that back in those days, and I did all real estate. When
Mhm.
Hurricane Katrina happened, I was in Texas. I had 30 something properties here, and they were all producing income. And when that happened that night, I came home 2 weeks later trying to get to these properties. I had to go through my savings, had to start up an little side construction company, had to figure out how to make extra money doing construction. And that taught me my lesson that, like we're here, like what's happening today, because of that factor, if you put all your eggs in one basket, things happen. You don't know what's going to happen. It's
Right.
happened to me in the insurance industry. It's happened to me in the real estate market. And it's just you can, let's take COVID for example.
Mhm.
COVID was another thing that kind of stopped everything, right?
Right.
And it's like you just can't, you don't know how to plan anymore. You got to figure out how to make income from 2 or 3 different ways. The real estate industry, it's so dependent on the decision makers,
Yeah.
and it's dependent on the markets. It's dependent on mortgage companies. It's like you're sitting here waiting for a commission. And I've been there to where you can go in debt on a credit card for $10,000, $20,000. By the time it closes, your expectations of that money coming doesn't really come like it's supposed to, and you just live this cycle of playing. And then you have to do marketing, and you have to, like you're saying, you're driving your time, you're dealing with listings, you're paying for the signage, you're paying for the marketing, you're paying for Zillow and all these different things. But most people don't see that part of the back end of what a real estate agent really has to do to survive. And
Right.
they're dependent on hoping this thing sells within the next 30, 60, 90 days. And it can be the most beautiful house in the world, and it could be sitting there for months because people
Right.
can't get the funding. You just can't.
Exactly. Yeah, insurance and tax and everything has gone up so much that it's a lot of sticker shock. And then you have a lot of people who are sitting on 2.5% from when they refinanced during COVID, which was wonderful. And
Right.
then why would I move now?
Correct.
Because then I'm paying more for a lesser house in some cases.
Yeah, no. If you can sell, if you can sell, you sell your house, and let's say you're walking over with 200, $300,000 so-called profit, but then you're moving to somewhere else, you're going to be paying that. And like you said, if you're, let's say you want to hold on to your cash, but you're going to be paying 6, 7, 8% at least, based off what I'm seeing.
Right.
Um, So yeah, it's fun. It's a very fickle time. But if you, like you're saying, if you really come across the right properties in the right areas that are priced right, you can make some good calls. And I've seen a lot of individuals who have the cash that are from California, some of these other states that are moving out of those states. They're coming in down here, and they're the ones who are gobbling up everything because they have the money.
Right.
They
Goes
haven't
further
seen,
here.
yeah, goes a lot further. Is that what you're seeing? It's a lot of out of town people,
Yeah, some of that. Yeah, definitely.
but still, New Orleans in general is kind of tough right now.
New Orleans in general right now, yeah, definitely. Things are just, yeah, they're sitting.
So, what are some of the things I know we talked about? Mississippi, Alabama, Florida. Have you been researching some of those
Yeah, I've
properties?
been looking at kind of Huntsville, Alabama. I was
Uh-huh.
checking out lead cost over there and prices. And what's good about the reason it was brought to my attention was brought to me by Mike Mito.
Mhm.
Um, he's a commercial agent, and he said, "Oh, you should check out Huntsville." And I said, "Oh, well, tell me why." And you have aerospace there. It's an hour and a half from Nashville, which is booming. Um, and you have a Mercedes factory over there and things. So you have all these industries that are kind of holding it up,
Hmm.
you know. But when I went and I checked out cost per lead and the median sales price and everything, I was like, okay, I need to dive back in and see a little bit more about what's going on there. Um, so that is an area I'm checking out. And of course, Alabama across the board, when I looked at different counties, I was surprised by the cost of some of their leads. In New Orleans, you might look at your average lead cost right now is 125 a lead for the kind of leads that I look for, which is people who raise their hand and say, I want a cash offer fast. They're
Right.
motivated. Um, so these are the same kind of leads in Alabama that are going for 300 a piece. So that right there tells me, okay, either the competition is very stiff and people are willing to pay 300 a lead because the money's there, right?
Mhm.
Otherwise, why do it? I've seen New Orleans, their average has gone from 175 a lead to 100 to 125 a lead.
Interesting.
So it's just there's not as much drive for it right now. And I don't want to pay for the leads because I also know how long my carrying costs are going to be for to flip a home in New Orleans, right?
Right.
And
Mhm.
also you have the other added cost of insurance and taxes.
Are you getting more leads with people who are looking to get out of the homes because of reasons that either financial
The
challenges?
biggest reasons, yeah, the biggest reason, I mean, you have a lot more foreclosures are ticking up, but a lot of the people who want cash offers are under financial stress. They have divorce. It could be a succession property. It could be a hoarder that is too embarrassed to list their house kind of situation, or even a landlord who's too embarrassed to list the house.
Right.
Um, and things like that are the primary reasons that I find. I've had the last one I sold, it was a wholesale deal, and he simply just he had enough money in the house and he didn't have time to get it in the shape he wanted to sell it,
Ah,
right?
right.
So I found someone to buy it and made about 14 grand on the wholesale. And so here's another thing, if you're going to start doing a flipping business, um, if you don't have a contractor that you have confidence in,
Yeah.
then wait until you have a contractor you have confidence in before you start flipping houses. So, a lot of people, I think, try to find them to meet for the house that they want to flip, and then they run into trouble because the contractor isn't performing and it's taking longer.
No, and that's where I feel that's where people they're looking for, you're looking for a team these days, right? It's kind of what happens. I find is that the contractors sometimes take advantage of the homeowners, and that's where I have a few people bringing me in on the process right now because they know that I'm going to be a little bit more. strict on making sure that that contractor lives up to what they're supposed to do. And I
Right.
find that most people that are getting into whether flipping, renovations, or whatever, they don't know really the process. They don't know really how to control that contractor, and understanding the time frames it takes for certain things to be done. And I see that that's the biggest problem that is most people are having is finding dependability, finding the contractors who really have a character, that they're going to
Mhm.
do what they're supposed to do. Finding a contractor that doesn't have too many jobs going on to where they're going to use the money on other jobs to where they all of a sudden they don't have the money to finish up the job they're supposed to do for you.
Right.
They keep separate books. So if you have a project going on, you allocate this money to go into a separate account just for that property. But most contractors get the money and they pool it toward their whole bank account, and then they're
Right.
taking their own personal bills out of it, and all of a sudden, and that's what stopped me from dealing with contractors a long time ago, to where I'm subbing it, the whole process, to make sure that everybody gets paid. The electrician, the plumber, you kind of keep it separate. But some people don't have that ability to do the project management. I think that's where you and I talked about is that, I think that's where Louisiana House Partners kind of comes in, correct? That's that the next conversation,
Yeah.
that helping people through that process and managing the project, from start to finish, to make sure that everybody understands the game plan, the time frames, the cost factors, what needs to be done, what needs to be
Right.
thought about, things of that nature. So is
Right.
that
To make
something?
sure that they're on time and keep a clean workspace and doing what they said they were gonna do.
Right.
Right.
So let's talk about Louisiana House Partners. I know you and I we've been playing with this for the last couple of weeks. So Louisiana House Partners, you started this mainly because you saw that a lot of sellers are being stuck where they have maybe some different things that need to be done to the house after inspections. And where did you come up with the concept of where? How do you find where you are with it?
Well, the concept is, I mean, I started Louisiana House Partners more of flipping and renovating, and wholesaling.
Mm-hmm.
But, now there is a need. And so in between projects, you have to keep people busy. Everybody needs to be fed, right? So why not find a way to be able to keep your contractors busy in between flips and also help manage the jobs so they have
Mm-hmm.
a hard time finding work because they're so busy doing the work,
Right.
right? And then there's not a lot of confidence with people you don't know
Mm-hmm.
or contractors, right? So why not run in between interface and have some of these jobs that they can do that don't take a ton of time. They're not building a house, they're just making some fixes to houses that are already motivated and under contract. So the
Correct.
idea is, and I didn't come up with this on my own. I have that group that I'm in, a mastermind that I work with. One of the guys, he's in Portland, and he came up with this where he sent an email to agents and said, "Hey, I am doing inspection repairs and we can get them done for you. Just submit your list of what you need done, and then we'll give you a quote and we'll come out and do the work." So he's coordinating the quotes and everything else and getting the work done. And it has to happen in a very small amount of time.
Mhm.
So the benefit to contractors is they don't have to go solicit business. That's what
Correct.
we're bringing to them, right? Like,
Right.
hey, we have an agent that has a seller that is under contract. They need 5 items done on their house. Here are the 5 items. This is the inspection report, A, B, C, D. It's already outlined for you. You don't
Right.
have to sell them on the work that needs to be done because it needs to be done 5 days before close.
Mhm.
So you're solving the seller and the agent's problem of finding reliable people to do the work who are all insured. And then you're solving the contractor's problem of keeping their people busy in
Mhm.
between projects. So, yeah, he was doing that up in Portland and got so busy he had to shut it down and only work for a certain number of agents.
Hmm. Interesting.
So it's still evolving on how we're doing it. Right now, the market, I mean, you're not having a lot of turnover of houses and all, but getting in front of agents and just kind of letting them know what you do and that they understand it and take a chance on you to get it done.
No, I think that's we talked about it. I have a feeling it's going to take trying to market it and getting kind of webinars to where people can get on and ask questions, because most agents don't go to the offices.
Right.
Trying to get agents to come into an office for a meeting, presentation, things of that nature. It's like herding cats. I think the webinars, podcasts, things of that nature like this is really the only way that I feel that maybe we can start getting that out there. So I'll do some announcements on that, and you and I can coordinate.
Okay.
We can try to get that to at least some of the different real estate agencies to see if they have an interest in getting on and learning more. And I think that is a solution to a lot of the problems. Um, like you say, a lot of agents are having with the sellers, not knowing what to do and how to do the upgrades and everything else.
Right. Or just not, with fly by night attitude of some, every now and then like I have them. I have people that I call for certain jobs, a plumber for this, electrician for this. And so
Right.
why not leverage all these people that I know do good work and
Correct.
keep them busy so they can stay in business too,
Hmm.
right? So, it's a work in progress. We're getting there.
It's everything is just process. It's I think both of us are working on different processes right now. Just it takes team, it takes people, it takes time, and then you're trying to balance out on a daily basis family. You're trying to balance out where the money's coming in from for whatever bill. It's just really just it's really getting to the point to where I'm starting to realize more and more each day that people are just busy.
You
And
know, um, I get what you're saying. A book that's helping me. I don't know if you've heard of Dan Kennedy, but he has a book and it's called The No BS Guide to Time Management. He
uh-huh.
has, he has a bunch of books, but I started reading this one and it makes you think of time in a whole different manner. And so if anybody struggles with time management, I really encourage them to read this book by Dan Kennedy, The No BS Guide to Time Management.
God.
Um, So that way, and a lot of it is sticking to a schedule, but also realizing the value of your time and putting a number to it. So that way, when you find out you're wasting time, you can remember that value and be like, oh, okay, I
Right.
want to make this much a year. What I'm doing right now is not going towards that. So me getting on the phone in the car and, just chatting isn't necessarily going to help me. Maybe I should listen to a podcast that's going to teach me something. I
No,
can save my phone calls for later in the day. Another way is to optimize your, time for when you work the best. So for me, it's mornings.
correct.
I wake up raring to go, and about 2 in the afternoon, I fade.
Right.
So, use that high productivity time in the best way. So, and leave your afternoons or some people, it's the evenings where they're free, whereas in the mornings, they need to take their time. So you're gonna need to find out what works for you and utilize it.
No, I think it's that, and it's leveraging people. It's leveraging,
Yeah.
the time of just like, with us. I mean, it's just leveraging time through people. You don't have enough time in a day. We each one of us has different resources of connections and people, and that's what I find. That's why I'm constantly focusing on who is it that I can bring into my sphere that sees the vision of different things that we're doing, and but then some people are not made for a particular part of the puzzle, but they may
Right.
be good for this part of the puzzle. And it's kind of like marketing. So you can sit here and talk to someone about marketing, but they don't have a clue. So you find that person that specializes in the marketing. So that person's doing the marketing. We're having basic conversations on, whether it's, real estate agents, renovations, things of that nature. So it's really the importance of, like you're saying, it's just time is figuring out how to put together the right people to be on your team, and each person has as somewhat of an assignment
Mhm.
that can help guide through that process to move, keep the train moving. I guess you can say, right?
Right. Okay.
Well, I do appreciate you coming on today. I'm looking forward to. I know we're working on some different things right now with Louisiana partners and some other real estate aspects. And
Right.
Huntsville, in Alabama sounds interesting. So I'm looking forward to learning more about what you're doing with that. That
Yeah, I figure why not check it out?
can't hurt. Can't hurt. Got to always
Yeah.
look.
If the market you're in isn't working, then maybe check out another one.
All right, babe. Well, thank you very much for coming on, and I will have this posted, and I'll share this with you so you can share it with your network. And as always, What's Your Passion podcast, Renee Manfrey, Lanay Stockstill. We appreciate you listening in. And any questions or any concerns or any information you want to get from us, how can I get in touch with you, Lanay?
Info at louisianahousepartners.com. I also have a website, louisianahousepartners.com.
That's right, LouisianaHousePartners.com. And I will put that in the description when I get this video uploaded to the YouTube channel.
All right. Great. Thank you.
Thank you very
Thanks
much.
for having me.
You have a great day, and we'll be in touch.